we go home and we're with our families, and some of us, like myself, have family members that are high risk.
This is TSN In Depth. I'm Rick Westhead, joined by TSN Scott Mitchell and Anthony Bass, a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. Anthony, thanks for joining us. And Major League Baseball now has a plan for returning to the field. First of all, how safe do you feel about getting back into the game?
I feel pretty safe to a certain level. I know there's concerns with traveling from city to city, and each player has their own health risks. I know personally, my daughter has chronic lung disease. She was born at 28 weeks, so she's at high risk for the coronavirus. So it definitely worries me.
Anthony, obviously the circumstances for every family are kind of individual and unique. Are you hearing kind of the same sort of things from players around the league, that they don't want to leave their families and they don't want to be in that position?
Yes, I am. I know a lot of people, for their mental health too, just being with your families, it's almost like distracts you from, the highs and lows of this game. They help you just think positively, and by not having them with you there, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very challenging for baseball players to deal with all the failures without your family.
Can you take us through the last few days, maybe the last week of your communication with the union and what they're telling you about concerns and things like that? And where do things go from here?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we get daily emails from the union, and they're basically saying that they're waiting to hear from Major League Baseball on an official proposal as to how the season is going to start. And we got the email late last night that Major League Baseball finally submitted over a 67-page document that kind of outlines how the season could look.
When you look at that document, what stands out to you initially?
Initially, they're very focused on providing safety to the players and their families, as well as making sure that they have the required amount of tests to make sure that players are, not at risk or sick or have symptoms of COVID-19. With that said, I don't want to take away testing from the frontline workers that really do need it, or those that do have symptoms in the world. So as long as there's enough tests for the ones that really need it, I'm all for resuming play.
Sean Doolittle the other day tweeted about COVID and pointed out some of the different problems that this virus can cause: strokes, scarred lungs, organ damage. How much thought have you put into, or how concerned are you about, if you got COVID, about this, becoming a life-changing disease for you, Anthony?
Yeah, it's concerning for sure. This is not something to take lightly. I know early on a lot of people were comparing it to the flu, but now we see the numbers going up into 60, 70,000, and it's been a couple of months. It's scary, and it's definitely on the forefront of my mind, and something that I need to be concerned about when I'm going out and playing, and making sure that I'm doing everything that I can to stay safe and keep my hands clean and distance myself from my teammates and coaches. Unfortunately, we know that this virus can definitely leave long-lasting effects on our bodies. So we definitely need to take it very seriously.
What we understand from Major League Baseball's plans, Anthony, is that if there is a player who tests positive, that it will not interrupt play, that player would be taken out of the clubhouse, and everyone around him presumably would be tested. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out, if it does. Hopefully it doesn't have to, but I think that's the necessary precautions you need to take, is to remove that individual that is now has the virus, and separate them, and make sure that everyone else is fine. Because we're not only in the clubhouse, we go home and we're with our families, and some of us, like myself, have family members that are high risk.
Anthony, for most players, if not all of them, why is some sort of a revenue sharing program a non-starter?
The revenue sharing would kind of be like a soft salary cap, is what it would do to the players. And essentially it would reduce our salaries even more. As to what number that is, I don't know. A rough estimate would be cutting our salaries in half again. And for the players, that's definitely like an issue because we agreed upon taking a salary reduction at the end of March to play for a prorated amount, which I think is totally fair. Depending on the amount of games that we play is how much we get paid based on our guaranteed salaries. And for them to then potentially cut that in half using the revenue sharing, it's almost like you're putting yourself at risk, your family at risk, and you're not making nearly as much as I think the players should for doing a pretty much like a non-essential job in this time. You know, we're not essentially needed to do our job right now, but we're asked to do that. So I think being paid fairly is nothing too crazy to ask for.
With all that being said, Anthony, some players have talked about potentially sitting out the season. Do you believe that is realistic? And is that something that you've, I guess, pondered at this point as well?
I've definitely thought about that scenario. I think that the union has our best interest at heart, and I trust that they're going to provide us with all the information that we need to make the best decision for us and our families. But I really think that we're going to come to terms. This is the initial proposal. Obviously, they're going to ask for everything in their favor initially, and then that's just how negotiating starts. So we'll find some common ground. I'm pretty confident in that.
Anthony, you tweeted recently that if anything, that players should receive hazard pay for taking on the risks. Can you explain why you tweeted that, and then why you decided to delete that post?
Yeah, I decided to remove the post because I felt like the tweet was misinterpreted by a lot of people. And, I was confused at what I saw in the mainstream media, and that's my fault. I should have not taken it to heart or believed everything I read. So I decided, it's best to take it down. A lot of people don't understand what my point was, so it's best just to remove it.
What was the point that you were trying to make?
The point that I was trying to make was we're being asked to put ourselves at risk and our families at risk while taking a significant pay cut during this time. If we're asked to put ourselves at risk, I feel like we should be able to get what we asked for, our prorated salaries. The hazard pay was basically just like another way of saying, like, if anything, we should be getting paid a little bit more for putting ourselves at risk during a time where we're non-essential.
Anthony, when some of the other protocols outlined in this document, no spitting, no showers after the games, no meals that aren't prepackaged individually. What are your thoughts on things like that kind of take away all of the camaraderie of the game because you're close to guys?
Yeah, I think taking the precautionary measures is priority one. It's fine. I could shower in my hotel room. I could shower back at my apartment. That's not a big deal. I actually did that when I played in Japan in 2016. After the games, we didn't shower. You stayed in your uniform, and the bus took you to the hotel, and that became pretty normal. So I don't think that's a big issue. The pre-packaged meals, I think that's a great idea. Just everyone has their own individual packages. You don't have to touch utensils or things of that nature that other people are touching. So I think all those concepts are headed in the right direction and allow us to play this game safely.
The Korean Baseball League obviously has started up, and they've already introduced some changes: no high-fiving, no spitting, face masks in the dugout, etc. Have you thought much about how different baseball is going to look and feel this year?
Yeah, no denying it's going to be different. Not playing in front of fans it's going to be very, very eerie. Also, make sure you're not getting close with your teammates, wearing masks, no high-fiving. Like I said, it takes away from the excitement of the game. When you get a hit, have a home run, you want to give them high fives, give them hugs, and it's going to be difficult to hold yourself back from doing that because you're so accustomed to doing it. So that's going to take away from the excitement part of being in the dugout, being in the bullpen, and being able to really connect and interact with your teammates. But unfortunately, you can't. But we understand why.
You mentioned that you're confident that the union and the league will be able to find common ground. Are you concerned at all just with the CBA up after the 2021 season about how much these negotiations kind of impact what goes on over the next kind of year and a half?
Yeah, it's huge. I know the CBA does come up, and with this season, the way that it's unraveling, it could really affect next year's free agent market, as well as rolling into the 2021 CBA. That's why I think it's very valuable to get back on the field and get the season going. Obviously, making sure that everyone's health and safety is priority one, if that's possible. Both, like I said, both sides, they want this season to happen. We just got to get there and find some common ground.
Anthony, this was about to be your first season as a Blue Jay. With the commissioner kind of talking about wanting to play in as many home parks as possible, at this point, are you expecting to cross the border and play home games in Canada?
I would love to. I know the excitement that happens at the Rogers Center. I was fortunate to experience that in 2015 when I was with the Rangers in the postseason. That was very exciting. So I was looking forward to that level of excitement and energy, and I'm still hopeful for that. I know initially, with the quarantine at the border, I'm not sure when that expires, but it's sounding like we won't be able to play in Toronto, at least initially, but hopefully at some point later in the summer, maybe we could do that.
When you look at some of the setup that they proposed, when you think of a quick ramp up and then a compacted season followed by expanded postseason potentially, obviously the pitchers are the main concern. How much time do you need to get ready? And then how much time do you think a starter would need to go potentially 5 innings?
That's the tricky part. Being a relief pitcher, it's not as big of an issue. I think I can be ready in 3 to 4 weeks, ready for games. But as starting pitchers, they need to be built up to go 5, 6 innings before the start of the season. And I don't know if 3 weeks is enough time for them to do that. It's individual basis. Each person's different, but I know that our pitchers during this time are making sure that they're built up enough to where the 3 weeks for spring training is enough for them to be ready.